Today, we will talk about XDC and how their partnership with the GLEIF, which I think is pronounced GLEIF, I don't know, um, is actually helping them as they begin to tokenize more real world assets in the trade finance industry, which they have in fact uh, d- 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 done already. So if you can't tell, I'm still a little sick. I think I have a cold. And tonight we will play a game that I like to call Let's See How Long I Can Get Hung Up on a Word Before I Run Out of Air and Pass Out because I can't breathe through my nose. Yeah, it's a fun game. So let's kick this off with hearing from the experts themselves about an overview of what this partnership actually offers XDC.
Now, this is my last slide, which just talks about what are the partners we have right now. So we are integrated with the best, which is Trade Trust. We have also integrated with GLEIF to make sure that we are able to pick the legal entity identifier. Right now, we do KYC based on MAS, which is a central bank here in Singapore, but we're in the process of onboarding more digital custodian in other countries. We also have ISO 20022 compliant financial messaging, which will help you to do faster settlement. Settlement process, I'm not discussing that in detail, but we can offer you very fast settlement so that there is no time wasted. But we could use the current Swift rail or we can use the new rail available in the market today. Conforming to ICC DSI, and from a network perspective, we are EVM compatible. So that way, we are able to work with any network out there which is EVM compatible, making us to work cross-chain easily. All right. Of course, our trades are backed by insurance, and you can issue and surrender any negotiable instrument on our platform.
So, in short, XDC is already very well positioned to be able to perform a lot of the activities in the trade finance industry right now with who they are already partnered up with. And a lot of that actually comes from the trade tech organization with the insight of Andre Casterman. And I have talked about this a lot in the past, so I won't expand on it too much on here, but it is critically important, and that he is very well connected, and he is very and he is extremely experienced as well. So, what is this LEI integration? Here is the announcement from September 1st of 2023. That is pretty much the press announcement, but LEIs are essentially a code that helps to ensure that each of the companies on the end of a transaction are actually transacting with the right company in order to prevent fraud, essentially. So, on the GLEIF site, it explains more on that here. So, it is a 20 character alphanumeric code from ISO 17442 that that connects to key reference information that enables clear and unique identification of legal entities participating in financial transactions. Each LEI contains information about an entity's ownership and thus answers questions of who is who and who owns whom. It is it comes from a publicly available LEI pool that can be regarded as a global directory, which enhances transparency in the global marketplace. And as you can probably tell, that is extremely helpful for trade finance industry transactions. So that was a part of, or that was the main content of a panel that the GLEIF participated in. And that article that explains it a bit more is actually right here. That is about increasing transparency in crypto and digital asset trading markets with the LEI. So when we do, or when these companies in well, in all kinds of industries choose to transact on chain, that is inherently more transparent. Now, it can be a private chain, it can be a public chain, which would be a lot more transparent, or it could end up as a hybrid chain, which is probably what a lot of these will end up choosing, where it keeps private information on a private chain, and it puts more public information on a public chain that would increase the transparency and possibly even the interoperability as well. So how exactly is this important for XDC? Well, a lot of the trade finance involvement comes out of R3 and R3 Corda with their core dApps. And I take every chance I can to remind everybody that XDC and XRP are in fact connected by R3, by SBI R3, and by SBI Ripple Asia. That is a significant proponent of Ripple and XRP. So R3 Corda itself is a trade finance oriented platform that that primarily uses XDC, although there is code out there that is free and publicly available to enable the use of XRP in the R3 Corda platform as well, which I think is pretty significant, because a lot of these large financial institutions are connected to Ripple, and therefore they might have a propensity to want to use their product XRP. So I just think that that's always an interesting note to actually highlight. And here is a breakdown of trade tech again. They have actually tokenized real world assets in the trade finance industry. That primarily began with the e-bill of lading process, which is a part of the UN Model Law on Electronic Transferable Records, or MLETR. That has been done, and they have tokenized other transactions as well. So all of this is actually happening right now. At this point, it is just a matter of time before the XDC network is more and more involved in the trade finance industry, which is worth anywhere between about 30 trillion annually, and I have seen as high as about 115 trillion as well. So that would be a very large value increase for the XDC network, and therefore XDC. So an indirect way to tie all of this into the more financial end of the XDC network, it comes in this thread from Tokenizer, who I always highly suggest to follow as well. So XDC's trade tech has been used by the likes of Securitize to tokenize real U.S. treasuries. And of course, this right here is not particular to the trade finance industry, but it is still incredibly important, and it all ties back into the different partnerships, such as the GLEIF and its LEI platform, as they begin to have the tools to prove that they are more and more in line with regulatory compliance. So this trade tech launches U.S. Treasury bond token on the XDC network. It is called USTY, and it is significant because it expands low-cost access to the yield generated by an institutionally managed U.S. Treasury ETF. Investors in these USTY tokens will have exposure to U.S. Treasury securities with remaining maturities between 0 and 1 year. So they call out the XDC network there, and it calls out that USTY is one in a family of tokenized securities set to be issued on the XDC network, with trade tech serving as an engine providing end-to-end securitization services. So that will allow institutional investors worldwide to access one of the most old financial products in government treasury bonds in a new way. But what does that mean? To put simply, the XDC network has achieved the promise of blockchain technology by offering a solution that has been officially integrated into real-world financial assets to create a more efficient and globally unified system, which in my opinion ties right back in to the XDC's involvement in tokenizing the trade finance industry and trade tech in particular. So while we are talking about the financial end of XDC, here is the exact same guy from this earlier part of our presentation here, explaining about how liquidity providers work on the XDC network. And in the case of investment into the trade finance industry, it is really important because as you tokenize expensive trade finance industry assets, all of these investors out there right now who don't have the amount of capital to invest in one asset outright can invest in a tokenized asset and be rewarded off of the returns of the trade finance industry.
The whole story. So these are the three things available today for anyone wanting to do pilot with us. Now, let me take some time in explaining how exactly the solution works, what are the components, and how we all can participate. My apology, this wordings are a bit small, but I'll explain this in detail so that all of you get an idea what the solution is exactly we are talking about. So if you can see, there are three layers in this diagram. Let's start with the lower one. The lower one is the documentation layer. So this is where documents get created. So our part of solution is we onboard trade participant and allow access to them so that they can use a doc prep application to create trade documents. So if you can read those smaller ones, there is an exporter here in one end we have an importer on the other end, and then we have carrier, chamber of commerce, any inspecting authorities, or anybody who is creating document. What XDC has done, we have left this documentation layer open for partners to develop, because we strongly believe this is a very heavy lifting part of our solution. Covering exporter importers in any geography, it's a very resource hungry and time consuming activity. So if you are looking at developing a document preparation solution, talk to us. We'll provide you the entire software development kit so that you could develop this piece of solution and start supporting exporter importers of the country where you're operating from. Now, once this layer is created, I will jump one layer and come to the financing layer, and then everything kind of becomes very clear. What happens in a financing layer is the same exporter who created the document, if he is looking for liquidity, what they can do is they can bring in their document on XDC Trade Network platform. They can request for funding. Now here, they provide reference to the document created in the documentation layer. Now this application and this application works very seamlessly. Now all the exporter is doing here is creating a funding request, and liquidity provider are onboarded parties, those who look at these requests, and if they find those requests suitable to their business, they will start funding them. And then the document moves from the exporter side to the liquidity provider, and the capital move from liquidity provider to exporter.
One of the things that he did not directly call out is that GLEIF and the LEI platform are involved in the compliance and data verification, which come in between financing and documentation, in order to ensure that the right people are involved in the actual transaction.